Power sector receives fresh 600 billion naira intervention fund to settle existing shortfall. Nigeria Governors Forum schedules meeting to discuss recent directive by the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit on local government funds. In international news, Brexit issue still burning around Irish border plan as EU rejects Prime Minister Boris Johnson's plan. And in sport, no Nigerian made the list of 57 referees for the 2019 FIFA Under-17 World Cup.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatuji. President Muhammadu Buhari sworn in 43 ministers into the Federal Executive Council of his second-term administration. The ministers took oaths of office shortly after Boss Mustafa took his as the secretary to the government of the Federation. He was reappointed by the president last month. President Buhari also reappointed himself the Minister of Petroleum Resources. While delivering his remarks after the oaths, President Buhari appealed to the ministers to work diligently to improve security, grow a diversified economy, and fight corruption.
Our priority, our primary business over the next 4 years is to work together towards delivering the results that the people of Nigeria expect from us. We have a great opportunity as an administration to build on the progress already made in order to fundamentally shift Nigeria's trajectory on the path of steady growth and development.
Uche Chukwu Oga is the Minister of State for Mines and Steel Development. Mohammed Bello, the Minister of Federal Capital Territory. Godswill Akpabio, Minister of Niger Delta. Chris Ngige, Minister of Labor and Employment. Sharon Ikiazu, Minister of State for Environment. Adamu, Minister of Education. You can check our website www.annafrica.news for a full list of ministers and their portfolios. ANN News reported earlier about the arrests of the Nigerian police of alleged kidnapping kingpin Hamisu Bala, aka Wadume, at his hideouts in the Lion Mai Alo Atoro area of Kano State. The joint investigative panel set up by the defense headquarters to probe the killing of 3 police officers in Taraba State has opened an investigation into the video showing Wadume indicting soldiers over his escape. The defense headquarters has also invited police, Air Force, Department of State Security, and other security agencies for a joint meeting to look into the security challenges facing the country. In the video released by police on their Twitter handle, Wadume confessed the army chased the police and forced his release and killed them. The defense headquarters panel has been given a time extension to unravel the mystery behind Wadume's confession. The federal government has released 600 billion naira intervention fund into the power sector in order to settle current shortfall. Managing Director, Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, Usman Mohammed says on Wednesday, plans are underway to unbundle the transmission company for better performance. Mohammed says this will lead to the creation of a separate transmission service provider, while the independent system operation will be with the market operators. He explained that for the unbundling process to be a success, there will be need for a functional supervisory control and data acquisition, SCADA, and an electricity management system, EMS. Mohammed says this is Nigeria's 4th attempt at SCADA. He says fixing it will take at least 2 years. The process has been segmented to start with the automated meter reading, where all energy will be accurately metered and every market participant will have access to that. The 36 state governors of the Nigeria Governors Forum met earlier today, Thursday, to discuss recent directive of the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit on local government funds. The governors also agreed to prioritize the routine immunization coverage in states across the country. The governors also decided to participate in the United Nations General Assembly Program on Climate Change and Sustainable Goals. NGF Chairman Governor Kayode Fayemi says the governors have also planned to promote the establishment of agro-process zones in Nigeria. It says that will bring together farming and processing communities in the country. The governors also opted to continue supporting the actualization of universal health coverage in the country. Coming up, African stories. A new drug believed to be effective in treating Ebola to be made available to all patients in the DRC. And later, international news. Brexit. Where do we go from here? EU rejects UK Prime Minister's Irish border plan.
You are watching ANN.
This used to be me. But that was before I got the perfect bag. It's handy and easy to use. All I need in one compact space, just like my MTN Extra Value plan. I used to get one plan for my calls and then try to remember which data plan worked for me. Roaming was a totally different ballgame. Not anymore. I've got the MTN Extra Value all-in-one plan. If you're a data buff like me, you get extra data with some talk time. And if you like to make calls, you get extra talk time with some data. And when I'm abroad, I automatically browse, chat, and call right on the same plan. MTN Extra Value was made just for me.
More of data or calls, whichever one you prefer. MTN Extra Value is made just for you.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to events from across the African continent. A consultation meeting was held in Addis Ababa on Wednesday. A consultation meeting called by the East African Bloc has brought together South Sudanese political parties and members of the so-called Troika countries, Britain, Norway, and the United States, as well as representatives from the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, China, European Union, African Union, the United Nations, and other stakeholders to review the implementation of the revitalized agreement on the resolution of the conflict in South Sudan. The meeting held in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, was to find a solution to the stalemate in South Sudan amid the approaching deadline for the 6-month pre-transitional period.
Impediments which have affected the implementation of the pre-transitional tasks include limited funding, late disbursement of funds, lack of disbursement of budgeted funds, leaders' insufficient commitment, and prioritization of tasks and delay in fulfillment of pledges for in-kind support.
One of the main hurdles is how and when to unify the country's security forces.
Areas, they're able to verify cantonment areas, they're able to direct force to report to cantonment areas. We're aware now at least 60% of the cantonment areas have witnessed soldiers that have come to the cantonment areas and to the barracks, but they're not being registered right now. They're not being screened to meet the conditions to be trained as a unified armed force. And also the lacking food in the cantonment areas. The infrastructure is not helping.
IGAD says to hasten this operationalization of forces, the South Sudan government must honor its financial pledge.
Dollars or so to start the process. The government has contributed, they had promised 100 million. We cannot move without the money available. So that's really something that we need to agree in the course of the day.
The leader Riek Macha's house arrest and push for the face-to-face meeting between the opposition leader and President Salva Kiir. The November deadline for a transitional government is already an extension from May. The region and the international community have made it clear that they will not support any further delay, and the South Sudanese are waiting to see if any joy will come out of this meeting. Until recently, many had given up on a cure ever being found for Ebola. Horrific stories of deaths had dogged the news coming out of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Neighboring countries are jittery and 1,800 persons have died of the disease. Now there is hope. A new Ebola drug that is said to be effective in treating or even curing the disease is to be made available to every patient in the DRC. Reporter Leon Xiong has the story.
Health experts say they want to expedite the distribution of the new Ebola drugs. Region EB3 and MAB 114 showed significant success in treating Ebola in clinical trials. Making the medicines available to everyone who needs them is now the priority.
The company who provide the drug, they ensure that they will provide as much as we need to cover the outbreak. So there is no problem or shortage, or is free, and they are provided to treat patients. So there is no problem for the doses.
Until recently, there was no reliable way to treat the Ebola virus. Last month, the World Health Organization declared the outbreak in DRC an international public health crisis. But collaborative efforts in finding solutions, like the new drugs, could be a promising turn to ending the epidemic.
It was worth it because it's going to save lives. And that's what we ultimately care about as the American government, the American people who support this effort. And I know that's what we all care about for Congo and for the rest of the world.
But Ebola cases continue to emerge. This week, a mother and her 7-month-old child were confirmed to have tested positive. They were the first recorded cases in South Kivu.
What we are doing now is to involve more local people in the treatment center, and also local people who speak the local language, Nande language, to carry out every activities there. I mean, vaccination and surveillance and contact tracing.
Nearly 2,800 people have contracted Ebola in this outbreak since the first confirmed case in August last year. More than 1,800 have died. While the discovery of the drugs is a major step in curbing the Ebola epidemic, the World Health Organization says it will continue to conduct research and incorporate its findings into the Ebola response plan. But even with the progress made so far, it may still take a while for this epidemic, already the second worst ever, to finally be put to end.
When one of Zimbabwe's first solar mini-grid systems was installed in a drought-prone Mashaba village near the Botswana border in 2016, residents thought their problems were solved. Cheap, clean power-run irrigation pumps that kept the community's wheat, maize and vegetable fields a sea of green even as drought caused by climate change parched the surrounding landscape. But the green and rich fields have attracted a new problem to the village: herds of hungry elephants. As drought makes grass and other fodder harder to find, elephants have begun invading the village's tempting irrigated fields, destroying crops and irrigation canals and exasperating farmers. Mashaba residents say up to 60 elephants now appear to see the village's irrigated fields as one of their main sources of food. One of the Mashaba village leaders said he feared the near-daily elephant invasions into the community fields mean farmers won't get much of a harvest next month if the problem isn't addressed. To try to find a solution, residents are working with the Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority, which oversees the country's wildlife. When we return, international news. Brexit issue still burning around Irish border plan as EU rejects Prime Minister Boris Johnson's plans. And later, sport. FIFA skips Nigeria in total list of referees for Under-17 World Cup.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit. Welcome back. This is ANN News and foreign events.
The UK is pushing ahead with plans to leave the European Union at the end of October, but there is one major snag that appears to be a thorn in the road. Just as it went back and forth during meetings with UK former Prime Minister Theresa May, the European Union has rejected UK new Prime Minister's demands that it scrap the Irish border plan.
Britain and the EU have clashed over Prime Minister Boris Johnson's demand to abandon the Irish border plan. Earlier, Johnson wrote a letter to European Council President Donald Tusk aiming to scrap a key part of the border deal. EU officials dismissed it, saying Britain had failed to propose any realistic alternative. The Irish border backstop plan was signed by former Prime Minister Theresa May. It will come into effect after Brexit if the UK and the EU fail to reach a trade deal. Since taking office a month ago, Johnson has promised to take Britain out of the EU on October 31st, with or without a deal. Meanwhile, the British government says officials will stop attending EU meetings from September 1st, except for those on matters of national interest, such as security.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has said on Wednesday the test of a new U.S. missile banned on the renowned Defiant Arms Treaty has raised new threats to Russia and will warrant a response. The U.S. tested a modified ground-launched version of a Navy Tomahawk cruise missile that accurately struck its targets more than 500 kilometers away. Sunday's test came after the U.S. and Russia withdrew from the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty that banned such weapons. Speaking after talks with Finnish President Sauli Niinisto on Wednesday, Putin argued that a quick test indicated the U.S. had begun work on the missile long before declaring its intention to withdraw from the pact. The U.S. has explained its withdrawal from the treaty was as a result of Russian violations, the claim Moscow has denied. The Russian leader said that Russia would also work to design such weapons, but reaffirmed that it wouldn't deploy the missile previously banned by the INF Treaty to any area unless the U.S. does that first. The controversy over U.S. President Donald Trump's abrupt postponement of his trip to Copenhagen continues, as a criticized Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, calling her nasty and her comments inappropriate. The Danish leader had rebuffed Trump's overture to buy Greenland, an autonomous territory rich in natural resources and a part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Trump says Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen's dismissal of his idea to buy Greenland was an affront to the United States. Danes voiced disbelief at Trump's decision to forgo the trip, although Frederiksen says she believed relations with the United States, a NATO ally, would not be affected. Trump had pondered openly in recent days about a U.S. purchase of Greenland, raising eyebrows in Europe and in the United States. Up next, sports. No Nigerian made the list of 57 referees for the 2019 FIFA Under-17 World Cup. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. In sport, no Nigerian made the total list of 57 referees for the 2019 FIFA Under-17 World Cup, which kicks off from 6th of October to 17th November in Brazil. A total of 9 officials were picked in Africa by the World Football Governing Body, with 3 picked down for duty as central referees and 6 as assistant referees and none as video assistant referees. The 3 African officials that will function as center referees include Gomez Victor from Republic of South Africa, Jihad Ridwan from Morocco, and Mohamed Amin from Egypt. For the assistant referees, FIFA picked officials from 5 African countries, which include Morocco, Sudan, Libya, Madagascar, and Lesotho. The Botswana Football Association has promised to relegate Premier League clubs who fail to pay their players. This means that the BFA are in line with the Confederation of African Football's club licensing rules. Last season, the Footballers Union of Botswana said up to 10 of the 16 teams were unable to regularly pay players due to financial difficulties. Among the teams to struggle paying its players in the past has been top flight side Gaborone United. That is any news this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and all the breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.